Chelsea were too intent in basically trying to antagonise the opposition. I thought, well, you would have thought that it was Chelsea who were actually not in the ascendancy. I looked at the game. I was thinking, you guys got the advantage here. You got your away goal. You're at home in front of the old stadium, but it's like they were caught in two stools. They didn't know whether to go for the game or hold on what they had, and that was very confusing. And then you had the situation where Oscar was a complete liability. Not only did he was he involved in the Ibrahimovic incident we're going to discuss later, but in terms of the job Mourinho gave him, he was nowhere. His passing was awful. He was anonymous. He didn't track back. He let Verratti get past him all the time. And that's why he was hooked at half time. And you look at the situation as well. Costa, who's Chelsea spent a lot of money. He's heir apparent to do their job.
Sorry to cut you off there, Kenny. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the phone now because we're going to move on to the Championship. Okay. We've got a Millwall fan on the phone. Hi, Stan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you loud and clear.
Hi, Stan. How are you doing?
Well, I'm not so bad. It's been an eventful evening, one way or another, but that's another story for another day.
So, Stan, thanks for joining us. We've got a couple of questions for you, so I'm going to pass you to Kenny for the first question.
Stan, I just want to say, I know you've been doing a Lions Live. You know, just tell us a little bit about it, because, like I said, a lot of our viewers, and obviously me and Yusuf, we haven't heard about a Lions Live, but we just want to hear what you guys do, and obviously want to give you a plug.
Oh yeah, well, what it is, it's a radio show that we put on a Thursday, and it's on from 7 o'clock until 9. And it's an interactive show, and so we normally have a number of star guests on there. Like tonight, for example, we had Tony Cascarino, former Millwall player, and then we had our new guy who's in charge of recruitment come on, and then we had people phone in and they make their points of view and send in emails. We run quizzes and all that sort of thing, and it's an enjoyable 2 hours.
That's great stuff. Obviously, I'm Arsenal, Yusuf's Fulham. You know, maybe we might have a sneak preview. Maybe we might learn something a bit about your show. Maybe we can take some pointers from you.
Yeah, well, as I say, if you get onto the computer, Lions Live, you see it on the underneath Millwall Supporters Club banner. You can tune into it on the computer.
Definitely, we'll definitely do that, Stan.
So we've got to talk about Millwall now. So obviously, the first question we have to ask is about Holloway's dismissal. Why has it taken so long for them to make that decision? Because we're fast running out of games. You're 8 points adrift. Do you think it was right to make that decision now and not earlier in the season?
Well, I mean, the thing was, we found this out not so long ago, but I mean, they would, from what I can gather, the board were looking at it in December. Right, Holloway was complaining that there were certain players that he wanted out of the squad and he needed to bring new people in. So they took a decision, basically, well, instead of sacking the manager then, they would bring in these players and then see whether whether he could turn it round. And it did look a bit promising in terms of performances. But unfortunately, the performances was okay to start off with, but the results were still the same. So eventually, and in the end, it was becoming, well, I mean, for example, on Saturday, the game when we played Norwich, I mean, Holloway comes out into the dugout and he stayed in the dugout the entire game. He didn't stand in the technical area. His reasoning for that was, according to him, was if he stood out in the technical area, you know, he would be getting abused and the players, they would be put off by it. Well, but anyway, so even then you just had the inkling, and then after the way they just surrendered, it was obvious it was only, I mean, you just knew that Holloway wasn't going to see out the season. And that was, you know, I mean, that was it. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, when Holloway came in, when he was first made the Millwall manager, I mean, I didn't hear too many Millwall fans complain because he was a manager that had a pedigree. But it's just all gone wrong. And the records will show now in terms of match stats, he's the worst Millwall manager ever.
Well, I can't help agreeing with you, Stan, because like I said, we've been doing this show for a good few months, and one of the situations is, Holloway's position. But you turn to Neil Harris. Now,
That's right, yeah.
Now, from the outside looking in, every time there seems to be some sort of crisis at Millwall, you turn to sort of Neil Harris. What is it with Neil Harris? Obviously, we know that he played for you long, but in terms of the fans' affections, is he like a safe pair of hands, and can he actually, save you from the dreaded drop?
Well, let's put it this way: most of the Millwall fans this season, well, in terms of Neil Harris, he's not going to come under any grief from the supporters, not because of it, not because. Because he's a legend, etc., right? But he ain't going to come under anything because most Millwall supporters took the view, right, that we were going to go down. I mean, that's still my view, okay? Okay, they've changed the manager, and so if Millwall do go down, they'll go down. What they're hoping is if we end up going down, instead of going down, well, we obviously want to stay up, but I mean, if you're going to go down, you go down fighting rather than, just getting slaughtered every week. So, Neil Harris, if we don't stay up, you won't get too many Millwall supporters moaning about that in terms of Harris, right? He did it once before for 3 weeks. It was last season. He didn't, as we found out today, at the time he was asked to do it, he didn't really want to do the job, but he felt he didn't have a choice. He felt duty bound. But apparently on this occasion, when he was asked, he's encompassed doing the job. And the board have said, apparently, that if he does well, now, what do they mean by well? Well, who knows? Presumably one of the minimum requirements might be, well, to stay up. But they reckon if he does well, and because they're not going to look for another manager until the summer. That's, and what they've said is if he does well enough, then if he wants to put in for the job, he will be considered. And that's really where it stands at the moment now. But, it was funny. I noticed on my Twitter feed today, one of the Millwall players happened to tweet that it was a real pleasure going into training today. And he hadn't felt like that for a long time. So that just tells you a story. But no, we'll have to see how it pans out under Neil Harris. But as I say, with the supporters, he won't come under no pressure.
Definitely. It's just obviously I'm looking at Neil Harris's because obviously you've got 10 games to go. Obviously it's staying for relegation. You haven't won a home game for quite a while.
October,
yeah.
25th, yeah.
And your next 4 games, you've got Bolton, you got Bolton, which is away, which is a nice, easy game for you. And then you've got the 6-pointer against Brighton, and you've got two London derbies against Brentford away and Charlton at home. I mean, in terms of Harris's remit, what as a Millwall fan, are you looking to get out of those 4 games?
Well, ideally, you could get. Well, ideally, you could get as many points as you can, because for example, we got to play Brighton next Tuesday. Now, if they go down, when I say if they go down, if they lose on Saturday, Brighton, and for example we manage to get a win or we get a draw, and then we play them on Tuesday, then beat them, it could be an interesting scenario. But we'd there go out to try and win the game. See, with our lot, if they see the team going out there and they're giving 100%, and you're beat by a better team, a better footballing team, well, if you give it your best, there's nothing you can do about that. Where's the problem is because our lot don't, they speak it as they see it. They're not, diplomacy is not a thing that comes with all supporters. Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that as it goes. But the thing is, if they see people going out there and giving their best shot, they do. To give you an example, we had a player called Gary Alexander. Yeah. Right? Now, Gary Alexander was a Millwall supporter as a kid. He came to us, he left Orient and came to us, and for the first, he signed in the July, and he didn't score his first goal until Boxing Day that year. Got a hat-trick. Never come under any grief from Millwall supporters, because in all them games they played, they knew he was a good player. and he was given 100%, but it just didn't work for him. We get the Boxing Day, he gets that trick, and he never looked back after that.
So, Stan, in a word, are Millwall going to stay up? Yes or no?
My personal view is no, I don't think they will do.
All right, excellent. Well,
I hope they do, but I don't think they will.
Well, we hope they do anyway.
Yes.
not at Fulham's expense, but that's a different story. Well, thanks very much for joining us today, Stan. Your opinion, we value your opinion. Thanks a lot.
And we'll have you on again.
All right, okay then. Well, you know my number.
Do we know you? We ain't going to forget your number at all.
All right then.
Good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us.
Okay,
Stan.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So staying with the Millwall conversation, obviously they lost 4-1 at the weekend. I mean, they were 4-0 down before they even scored their goal, which came as a penalty in the last 8 minutes. So it was right for Holloway to go. But I think we both feel that it should have happened earlier as opposed to leaving it this late and leaving them in a situation where 8 points at this stage of the season, it's a big.
It's ridiculous that, but if you look at Holloway, you know, like Stan's mentioned about him statistically being the worst Millwall manager of all time, but he couldn't cut it at Crystal Palace. Yes, he got Crystal Palace up, but when it came to like the bread and butter of the Premier League, he was found wanting. Holloway was at Blackpool. Yes, he got them up, but again, when it came to tactics and actually playing you know, like the Premiership way, or i.e. making yourself difficult to beat, he was found wanting. Leicester, he took Leicester into the third tier English football, and yet he keeps on getting jobs. So to me, and you know, people like Stan may have been surprised. I mean, looking forward to having him. I knew this will happen because I know Holloway. Everyone talks about Holloway's pedigree, but the bottom line is that he is basically what he is. He is an ordinary manager. He is not the manager
and as
for
Stan
Carlton
says,
Millwall.
No home win since October. That's relegation form right there.
That's the same thing that happened to Leicester in 2008, 2009. He did the same thing. Took a club with you know, like championship pedigree down to the third tier English football, and he's doing it again with Millwall because tactically he's no disrespect, he's another Harry Redknapp for me.
Like Stan said, I think we all agree that Millwall are sinking without a trace. We're going to go to a quick break, so join us after this break where we'll continue with our recap of the past week.